Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amanda from Settify. I'm head of Australia and New Zealand. And with me, I have the lovely Karen and Bianca. Just quick admin before we start. Make sure all your phones are off, all your notifications are off as well, so we can solely focus on this webinar. And happy to have questions come through at any point during our discussions. If you have any important questions to ask, just pop it in the chat section. That would be amazing. All right, so again, welcome everyone to Good Things Come in Small Packages, the Small Firm Tech Advantage. So I've introduced myself briefly, so I'll go into introducing Bianca and Karen. So Bianca is from Smokeball, and she's an award-winning global executive with 20+ years experience in tech, and she's a general manager of Smokeball. She's led teams globally and is passionate about delivering top-notch customer experiences and fostering innovation. With extensive practice management tech experience, Bianca holds a Bachelor of Business Study and is an accredited organizational coach. And we have Karen with us too, who's a non-practising lawyer, founder of and CEO of Legally Yours, co-director of Australia's first telehealth for legal video platform ProHelp Legal Australia, president of the Australian Legal Technology Association, ALTA, and former chair of the Women of ALTA, a legal tech editor for Idea Spies and a passionate ambassador of the progressive law movement in Australia. A lot there, ladies, a lot of experience. So thank you so much for joining us today. What we're going to cover in the webinar is really focusing on smaller firms, the innovation in the legal profession, adoption market trends, adoption challenges, as well as the small law firm advantage. So if I can start off asking, Karen, maybe you first, why are you passionate about technology in smaller firms?
Well, you've started with one of my favourite topics and favourite questions of all time. And thank you, first of all, Settify, for having me on the panel. And it's so great to be with Bianca and talking about this to the audience. So really, really grateful and happy to be here. So why am I so passionate about technology in small law firms? Well, first of all, I think it's really important to acknowledge that our legal ecosystem, our legal industry is comprised of 82% is small law. So when I talk about small law, I'm talking about that sole practitioner to that sort of micro boutique firm up to about maybe 20, 25 person firm. So it's a huge segment of the market, 82%. And I think that, there's not an appreciation of, small law, both within, tech companies, both within, legal news, all that sort of stuff, support services, education. So I've always been really, since, founding Legally Yours back in 2015, I've always been very, very passionate about small law. They're the most agile. So in terms of being able to innovate, they're doing real-time innovation in front of their clients every single day, day in, day out. And I love the fact with the speed that they can implement things as well. So from a tech perspective, they're amazing to work with because they can make the decisions. You're speaking to the decision makers, and you're able to really kind of, be able to see that kind of transformation and innovation happening at really high speeds. The other reason why I'm so passionate about small law and technology within small law is that segment of the market are the ones that are helping that 70 to 80% of people that currently have legal needs and aren't able to access lawyers. So we call that in the industry the missing middle of clients, of accessibility. And I think it's really important that, we are servicing them. And we know just now more than ever, as we go into this economic downturn that we're currently experiencing and will experience, unfortunately, this year, those people need great legal services, trusted legal services. They need lawyers that can, provide that really quick, efficient, convenient legal service delivery, and tech's going to enable to do that. And it's all happening at small law. So that's my answer.
Thanks for that, Karen.
Okay.
Bianca, did you want to follow from that? Why are you passionate about technology in smaller firms?
Yeah, look, I think, and like obviously Karen and I, we've got to know each other, the last couple of years. And I think what's really exciting and passionate is that there are so many amazing technology solutions out there addressed to solve those problems that Karen was just referring to. So, small law is the heartland, and it's something that we are deeply passionate about at Smokeball. It's a real part of, it's a foundation of how we became, a company. And those of you who know our CEO, Hunter Steele, will often know his story around how Smokeball came to be. And it was from him observing, his father's family law practice in Bathurst and just assisting with the daily struggles that, small law firms help people in the broader community with on a day-to-day basis. So, we, like Karen, love this really focusing on how we can solve and what solutions we can provide to clients in that space, because I recognize in the amount of law firms that I speak to is that they are doing the hard work day to day. They're providing the counseling services to those going through family separation or hardship, or they're there in those huge moments in your life, whether it's buying a property or selling a property or helping with estates, or there's so much that we know that small law firms do. And so to have technology solutions that are there to make their lives easier, more efficient, to enable them to deliver great customer experiences for their clients is really what I think one of the many things that Smokeball ultimately is about. So I agree wholeheartedly with everything that Karen has shared. And I think there's so much potential. That said, there are also challenges to get across all the things and the trends that are happening within tech, but I think there's plenty of great, vendors out there willing to help and partner with small law firms to help make their lives that little bit easier.
Yeah, and you've both touched on really important points. I think having been a family lawyer and worked in smaller firms, I can attest to the fact that having that technology to back you up and give you that support throughout your matter is really it's invaluable, really. So definitely agree with both of you in relation to that. And I wish I had certain pieces of technology when I was practicing, which would have saved me a lot of time. So I know that
technology is changing, and the trend of legal tech, it's a rapid rate, I think, of catching up to other industries. And there's some really exciting stuff happening in legal tech. So maybe next lifetime, perhaps, maybe, Amanda, who knows?
Yes. So a lot of the clients that do come to Settify are smaller firms. So, for instance, we'd get women who have moved from larger firms to start their own firms. We just have sole pracs, 1 to 4 fee earners per firm. And they have quite similar needs when it comes to needing that extra support. They're wearing the same hats. They have to basically do everything. And I'm curious to understand from your perspective, and Karen, I might get you to go first with this, and for our listeners as well, why are small firms best placed to innovate?
Well, I think, I kind of alluded to it before. They're really at the forefront of servicing, clients, this really huge market segment of the missing middle, but, all of those small businesses and startup founders, but also, they're small business owners as well. And I see so many lawyers, just like you've described, Amanda, that come into the Legally Yours community, and they've often left mid-tier, big-tier firms where they've had a great time, but they've kind of reached that moment in their career where they're thinking, well, do I want to go down that partnership route? Or do I actually want to start practicing law on my own terms and be able to, be the lawyer that I kind of wanted to be when I started, your legal studies way back when? And so I think the reality is that they come in, and what they do find is that they start these incredible firms from the basis of who is their ideal client, how are they going to service that client, and then they start to do some incredible thinking around what their values and their purpose are. And these are the types of firms that we love working with at Legally Yours, because, they're really, really clear on who they're trying to attract, who they're trying to service, the type of service they're delivering it. And then what they do is then they match all that up with great technical solutions, technology solutions that can encompass that to happen. So, to us, I call those firms, progressive firms. They're full of value. They often will have a different pricing model. So often where I see them is they've sort of given away timesheets and time recording, and they're looking very much at, value-based pricing or different alternative pricing models as well as they come through. And what we know, and particularly, I've spoken to thousands and thousands and thousands of clients over the years that I've been with Legally Yours. And the number one barrier that most of them cite when they're talking about, engaging with a lawyer is transparency and fear. So a lot of the market have a perception that when you go to see a lawyer, there's no transparency and certainty. Everyone has that story, which unfortunately I'm still being told today, where, you know, they saw a lawyer and $5,000 later, they didn't really understand, you know, what they were getting in delivered. And I think that small law, they're able to overcome those barriers because they can see the clients, they can understand how they want it delivered, how they want it priced, and they can meet that. They're not that sort of huge, they're not encumbered by that huge kind of beast behind them where it's really, really hard and very slow to implement changes and technology solutions. So, you know, to me, that freedom can really be achieved at small law, and it can really then offer and create those incredible services that we know the client market are seeking more than ever at this particular point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think where I've definitely seen some similar, I think the benefits of being a small law firm is, you know, the ability to change and adapt and pivot to what your business needs are more quickly and with more agility is absolutely an advantage that any small law firm has, because like driving any form of change, whether it's software change or any kind of technology change or process change, it's you know, it can be emotional. It's you know, it's like getting fit for the gym. You don't go and do one session or go and, if you're going to do a fun run, you don't go out and run 10Ks and go, I'm done. It can take you weeks and months to kind of work through that. So I think it's the same in terms of when you're adopting technology. It's understanding why you're making that change and really staying focused on what that solution needs to be. And, you know, like yourself, Karen, you know, I think about you know, I was able to do a number of interviews recently around the Smokeball Community Hero Award, and the stories that I was able to hear and share with some incredible people around how their business came to be, whether it was from, as you said, addressing adversity and working out how they could help others, or it born, you know, from you know, coming from legacy and helping you know, people who've come out of the defense force and, you know, helping them with setting up wills and estates. There's just some really amazing stories out there in small law that really what drives them and what motivates them. And I think linking it back to the technology sort of question, it's being able to provide solutions, you know, like Smokeball being able to provide a practice management solution for those firms that's specific to what they're looking for right and then and there, to help them capture the time or capture the, you know, the correspondence or manage the workflows and the tasks to go, oops, don't forget about that. I promised them to get back to them on that date. And that's really what I think technology can do. It's there to help you to provide a service. And ultimately, that's what I think a number of us are out there. Well, that's what I know a number of us out there in the market are doing. And happy clients means that you're delivering value and helping them to provide the service that they want to do. And yeah, there's so many incredible people out there doing that.
And a shout out to Chantel Dio, who I know one of those was. If you're looking to see an example of, you know, someone, an incredible lawyer who has set up an incredible firm that's so different and unique, Shakti Legal with Chantel Dio. And if you're not following her on LinkedIn, follow her, because I think that's just that incredible, isn't it? It's just that incredible way of, you know, really being able to set up something unique that there's a real demand for in terms of client demand. And she's filling that gap in the market. Just incredible.
Absolutely. Love it.
She's also just a really nice person.
Amazing human being. I love spending time with Chantel. Absolutely. I think, you know, I think you were talking about the sort of, and Karen, you were saying the same about the stigma. Like, there's a lot of just hardworking people out there wanting to do more for society. And that's what, like, I had tears when I was, you know, interviewing different people and learning more about their stories. And I think, and that's really what motivates people. So whatever we can do in tech and legal tech in particular to make that easier for them, like the stuff that they're doing is far more, I feel sometimes far more inspiring and life-changing than what I feel like I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. But it's just because it's different horses for different courses. But there's just, I think that's what's so wonderful is there's so many beautiful people out there doing amazing, heartfelt things because they believe passionately about what they're advocating for. That is huge. And I think, and that's what I've seen is the shift that's happening in small law, that these trailblazers are out there driving change in the sort of the smaller sort of areas, but having this massive sort of ripple effect. It's incredibly inspiring, and whatever we can do to help enable that, like, I'm all for it. So yeah, that's what the small piece that we can play in that. Absolutely.
And it's a really important piece that the legal tech does play. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about legal tech and doing all of that with the Australian Legal Technology Association, because I do know, tech isn't a solution, but it is an enabler. And that enabler is really, really powerful because it enables these lawyers to set up these incredible firms that are really servicing community. And it is really important. I mean, my own background story, just quickly, we're going off script now, but anyway, that's what we do. My whole reason of why, I became, involved in Legally Yours and with Legally Yours was really around, the experience with my parents as business owners and seeing them getting embroiled in this commercial litigation matter, which, ended up losing our home and their businesses and it was devastating. And it was never actually in the end about the other side that they were in the litigation. It was always about the relationship that they had with their lawyer, and it turned toxic. They weren't educated. They kept just getting slammed with invoice after invoice after invoice. And in the end, they ended up getting trapped in the litigation. And that feeling, and that was my whole reason why I was so inspired, and it's my whole purpose in terms of what we do with clients, is to really enable that doesn't happen to them, that they can connect with these incredible lawyers who don't operate in that way. They want to educate, they want to put their clients in control of their legal matters and their legal spend, and invariably that is small law. And that's why I'm so passionate then on the flip side is actually helping small lawyers build their brand profile, connect with each other, be able to access incredible tech like Smokeball and Settify, and be able to, build these amazing practices, because I know what they can do in terms of, the community out there and how they can help them in these really huge periods of vulnerability and need. And so, yeah, to me, I think that's just so important that we help small law as much as we can.
And also because the help is there. And since we're going a bit off script and talking, going down the path of personal stories. I'm a mum of two, and time just becomes so precious when you have children. And when mums come to us and say, I'm at the point of burnout, I don't know how I'm going to keep carrying on doing this, and to be able to provide them with a solution that actually works for them, and they're saving that time so they can then spend that time with their children. That's why I'm so passionate about technology in smaller law firms for that main reason too. So it's nice to hear how the different passions you all have, but they all develop from personal stories, usually always. We've yet to hear Bianca's and sharing this one.
I know, it's like, Bianca's personal story now that we're all sharing.
I know.
Also a mum of two, a 13-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl. And I think I've had the benefit of being in tech for, as you said, Amanda and my intro, this is like 23 years. So my sort of fell into technology, but and obviously a number of industries over that period of time. But when I look at the common thread that weaves through my sort of technology journey, it's all been around supporting small business. And that ultimately is what I love doing. I love working and helping small businesses. And that came back to, from seeing my mum and dad, starting a small business as kids when I was, my sister and I were young, and my swimwear business. And in running the swimwear business, she was making the swimwear at home from our garage and out there selling it to Rebel and Maya and all those equivalents back then. I'm like, Mum, that was huge. Like, to think she was a little small business operator and selling into these amazing, huge department stores. And it was her and my dad just out there with their little briefcase and bag out there showing the cozies and going, what do you think? And anyway, and I look at just that sort of the way they approached, and just, it was no silver spoon. It was just hard work. And I think as an adult and as a mum, you can appreciate that now. Like, going, wow, like, I've got some stories. I'm not going to share them because I will tear up. But that just the struggle that every parent goes through to put their children through having a better experience than what they had growing up is really what I think motivates all of us, no matter what you do for a chosen career. And I know Mum and Dad definitely did that for Tash and I. And I look at relating it back to our clients, the amount of inspiring people that I've met where same sort of thing, they've kind of stepped away from a career trajectory that no longer serve their values, and they've been able to create these experiences. And one firm really stands out for me is Shoalhaven Family Law. I had the benefit of meeting and spending time with Elspeth and her team last year. And Elspeth is another amazing woman in the family law space, and just watching how she's built her business and, you know, and now has this thriving practice of 10 staff, the family, and she just says, I just want to specialize in family law, and they do it so well. But having a highly engaged team, because they provide that flexibility, they're all aligned in terms of what they're solving for. They're pushing technology and innovation every day of the week, which is amazing. And it's just, and you meet these like-minded people, and just, you know, you're in awe of some of the things that they do, and how they deliver it, and how they're changing the game. So for me, you know, linking it back in terms of personal stories, I think anything that we can all do in our own capacity to kind of rally together, support each other, and technology that can help support small business in you know, whichever capacity we can, everybody wins from that. And that's what gets me out of bed every day. That's the feel good factor that I get every day.
Thank you for sharing, ladies. I hope everyone leaves this webinar feeling inspired. I know I feel inspired. And I really appreciate you both sharing your personal stories. One thing I wanted to touch on was obviously there's been COVID, and there's been more adoption of technology because people want online options available to them. Does that ring true to the both of you? Have you seen that there's been a shift in client and market expectations of legal service delivery?
Yeah, I certainly have. Do you mind?
Okay, jump in.
Absolutely, I have. And, you know, even the type of clients that we have coming through Legally Yours, connecting, you know, wanting to connect to the lawyers that we have in our community on our online marketplace has really, really evolved. So I think when we first started up, it was very much, you know, the lawyers that we were working with and the clients that were coming through and connecting were very much that sort of mum and dad, individual transactions. Family law's always been huge because, you know, when I was going into groups and saying, I've got family lawyers who are fixed fee or value-based pricing, straight away people were like, did not know that existed. That sounds incredible. Absolutely want to connect through. And we've always trended very, very well with startups. So, you know, that kind of startup community, and we do lots of, you know, masterclasses and different works with different sort of events and stuff with startup communities. However, when COVID hit, it was so interesting because the lawyers that we had curated, you know, for the last sort of 5 years prior to when COVID hit, they were all typically, I mean, they were all using technology because they'd moved away from, I guess, this sort of hourly model. So they were looking at ways that they could use technology to be more efficient in their service delivery. So that was one point. The majority of them were operating virtually or remotely in some capacity already, and they had sort of this kind of virtual flexible remote team set up as well. And mainly that was because the first kind of adopters we saw coming through that we were working with at Legally Yours tended to be women. First and foremost, women who had left, you know, big tier, mid-tier careers, still wanted to practice law, had young kids, but wanted to do it on their terms. And so, you know, they were setting up these incredible firms. And so that was really amazing. So when COVID hit, we were sort of there still saying, well, nothing's changed for our members. Like, our lawyers are still operational. They're not sort of grasping at straws trying to pull together technology. So they were really there to stand and serve straight at the beginning, which was incredible. But then what we saw was the type of client coming through our marketplace really changed, and it shifted quite significantly since COVID. So, you know, still the mum and dads and still the startup, and we've got people coming through for wills and all those sorts of things. But now we're actually starting to see established businesses coming to us and saying, we've been using more traditional firms, you know, some even big tier, mid-tier firms. We want to try it because we know that the legal expertise and experience is the same with the members that you have, but I guess the advantage is that these law firms, you have a deeper connection relationship because you know who you're dealing with. You're not getting passed off to other people within a big firm structure. And also they're there to deliver the legal service on the client's terms. So now we're seeing, you know, much sort of bigger business coming through. We're doing lots of stuff with crowdfunding marketplaces where, you know, they've got the crowdfunding coming and they're coming to us and saying, show us your lawyers. We want to do that. More high net worth individuals. We're getting accountants coming through, financial advisors coming through and saying, we want to connect our clients to your lawyers because we want to experience that more tailored, flexible service delivery, transparent, you know, fees. And the other, just quickly before I throw over to you, Bianca, I was lucky enough to be on a panel discussion at the Council of Small Business Association, which is their national sort of forum. And in the audience was just filled with politicians, small business commissioners and small business associations, so representatives. And I was obviously talking about small law and talking about the types of law firms that they've created. And honestly, the look and expression in their eyes was one of shock. They did not know this was happening. And I was just inundated with them afterwards coming up and saying, I had no idea that there were lawyers out here doing this type of thing. How do we get connected with them? And so now we're starting to build, relationships with, councils like the Australian Hairdressing Council or the Australian, Small Business Professional Services Association, where they're saying, we want to know these lawyers. How do we get to these law firms? So absolutely, it's completely changed, and it's in a really good way for small law.
I agree. And I think it's when you have those sorts of, like, a pandemic has really forced innovation in this industry at such a rapid rate. And everyone had no choice really but to embrace, working flexibly, working remotely, as you were sort of saying, Karen, because that was, you could no longer go into the office like you used to, or force your staff to go into the office because of, obviously different mandates with lockdowns and what have you. And I think what I think it's done, at a more macro level as well, in addition to sort of small law, is it's realized that technology can enable people to do things more flexibly, potentially more productively as well, because it means that whether, people are sort of, have the mindset of a commute, but also just working more flexibly, and also I think incorporating, and it sounds cliched, but incorporating that work-life balance, that life doesn't have to happen before 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or when you've put the kids to bed. It's actually that blended sort of experience. And I think what it does is it keeps people more engaged and allows them to be, like, I think of, being able to, and again, the amount of women that I've spoken to in particular, or even dads, where they can actually be there to pick the kids up from school now, and they can duck out for half an hour, be there to pick up their child once or twice a week, or 3 times or 5 days, whatever works for them, or be there at drop off and be more present in their lives, is such, I think it's not necessarily, I think it's an underappreciated value that has come out of this, other than just the productivity metrics, which are clear. And we know that there's a lot of productivity metrics that shows the benefit, in terms of, working, obviously, utilizing online tools and being more collaborative. But I think from a society standpoint, I think there's so much more value. Like, we're more connected with each other in our local communities as well, whether it's local friends versus it all being sort of centrally driven in terms of, like, I'm based in Sydney, whether it's based on the Sydney CBD or the Melbourne CBD, and therefore that perception that that's where you have to be to do the work, or be in the office to do the work. We know that has shifted that mindset, and that's where I think you can also be more flexible and more accessible to your clients. So we know now that a lot of the firms that I speak to, it's rare for them to do an in-person meeting now, whereas before it would have been, we'll have to meet you in the office and you have to come in here, or there's this parking challenge or whatever. Now it's like, let's just set up a Zoom session. And that just, I think that makes people more accessible, because you can have this potentially an intimate conversation, a really sensitive conversation in an area where you're more comfortable and feel safe, as opposed to going into potentially a more clinical sort of setting where there's a box of tissues on the table, knowing that you're about to break down. And it's horses for courses. And I keep saying that, but that's what I love, that there is no one size fits all. But for those that do want to have an option where they might be in an office 1 or 2 days a week and work from home those other couple of days a week, is giving people that flexibility that didn't exist pre-pandemic. And the tools out there are now enabling that, because that's what society has, that expectation that I just have an expectation that you have a Zoom option for me. And if you don't, well, maybe you're not the right law firm for me, because I don't want to spend an hour going into your firm wherever you are. I want to fit this in between, moments that matter. So I think there's a ton of benefits that have come. Challenges too. Yes, I'd be naive to say there's no challenges, but I think the upside is definitely outweighs the downside.
And I just wanted to add, sorry, Amanda, as well, that ability to be geographically agnostic is so important. I did a whole spate, particularly through COVID, and I still get asked to speak on radio about it, but country radio stations, love hearing that lawyers now, you can access them virtually. And a lot of the content and the conversation around that is, in the country, you can have someone that's sitting, the nearest town is 6 hours away. They've got a legal problem. They don't want to travel 6 hours. And plus also they want the best lawyer they can afford, not just the only lawyer that's close by geographically. And so, even being able to provide geographically agnostic services, like, family lawyers they can be anywhere in Australia and be able to deliver that great service and advice and deliver, legal services. So, that's so important to have that breadth, because then you're so much more than just in your little pocket doing what you're doing.
Game changer. I agree. Total game changer.
Yeah, and I think there are many lawyers that are very much stuck in their ways. And like you said, Karen, when people heard about in that business discussion, they were shocked at what you had to say. There actually is not many people are aware of the fact that clients don't want to sit there for ages for a lawyer to gather data, or, for example, and they would want to do it in the comfort of their own home because they've gone through what it's like. Not to mention also divorce is increasing the rate of that, which is not good, but it keeps family lawyers busy. But having those online options and that type of technology available for clients because they want it now is so important for lawyers to adopt that and understand that that is where we are at.
And if you can find your soulmate online, you should be able to find your lawyer online. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
just saying.
It's a match made in heaven, one swipe away. I love that. Maybe there's an idea in that for someone listening.
I think there absolutely is. I can't
write that one down.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Love it, Karen.
That's so good. Can't say I've used many of those dating apps, but I totally get what you're talking about, Karen.
Like my husband would appreciate that either, just quietly, but anyway. I love it.
And so just on that as well, I just mentioned that there are those lawyers stuck in their ways and don't want to make that change to adopt technology. Are there any other challenges for smaller law firms in adopting technology that is right for them?
I'll jump in. I think in any industry, it's sometimes I think it's sort of it can be information overload, and sometimes it's like a paralysis thing where you kind of go, where do I start? There are so many options out there, and in tech, there's always something new. There's always something worth experimenting, whether it's like I need to be using this latest CRM, or I need to be using this type of email client, or I need to be using this type of document storage solution. At the end of the day, there are thousands of apps. You all you need to do is go into the App Store, and you can see that there are thousands of options available to any, whether you're a consumer or a small business. I think what it comes down to then is sort of going, well, you could spend hours researching every single one of those, and no doubt anyone can stitch together a number of applications that's going to work for them, because a great lawyer, really all they need is they need Outlook and they need Word, and anyone can start a law firm off those two tools. And we definitely see firms who are still working under manual ways. So yeah, you can start that way. Is that the most efficient way? Definitely not. And I think, and that's where, when you look at, I think it's terms like, how do you help navigate that to go, well, what are the choices that I should be considering? I often find that a lot of small law firms who are starting, and I spoke to even a mediator the other day, they go to their trusted peers, they go to those trusted networks and go, who do you recommend? And it's like, hey, or I'm planning to break away from, the large corporate that I'm in right now and start my own firm. What do you recommend? What are you using? And ultimately, even like Facebook community groups, like we know, Smokeball, for instance, comes up a number of times on Facebook community groups as a great practice management solution, because it gives you the option, and you can ultimately grow your firm with Smokeball based on the stage of growth that you're at. Shoalhaven Family Law as an example, 2-3 years ago, they were sort of a 1, 2, 3 years of firm. And over time, they've grown their business to 10 users. Now, not every firm owner, though, has that as their aspirational goal, and that's okay as well. So I think it's really, when I look at it in terms of where do you go for these solutions, like, of course, you can Google, of course, you can, sort of work out, well, how do I start? At the end of the day, I think it's talking to people who you trust and know and who have your back to kind of go, hey, I recommend this because this is what's working for me and my firm, and we're similar yet different, but also you've got the precedents, you've got the matters, you've got everything configured for you, ready to go. And as your firm grows, you can ultimately evolve with that as well. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, Amanda, is that there is always so much choice in any market. Laws is another growing market. There are so many options available to small law firms. It's really being really clear. And I often say to the team, it's like, be really clear on what problem it is that you're trying to solve for. Is it client lead, capture? Is it metadata? Is it trying to streamline my document creation because I have copied and pasted that information so many times in this Word document, and if I just had one source to go generate letter, it's pre-populated because of all the information I've been capturing in the matter. That's the thing that's going to help me generate a letter in minutes as opposed to hours, and give me that time back to help solve that next, help assist that next client who ultimately is also, sort of competing for my time as well. So I think it's just really trying to navigate that space, and we've obviously got some amazing partnerships with, as you said, with Karen and, the Australian Legal Technology Association. The whole point of some of these associations out there in small law is to help you navigate who's available, saying, hey, have you thought about these options? Have you thought about these options, to help make that choice a little bit easier, rather than you going out there and really doing the hard yards on your own.
100% agree with everything you've said there, Bianca. I mean, part of the reason, so we created an online member portal called the LY Hub during COVID. And part of the reason we created that was we were getting lawyers who perhaps weren't ready. So traditionally, we've always worked with lawyers who were already very much progressive and on that journey of being able to present, to clients that wanted that fixed fee or value-based pricing and technical innovation solutions that were happening on that end. But what we were inundated with lawyers who were saying, I'm not quite there yet, but I want to know how to do it. How do I learn? How do I, understand what I need to do? And I think part of what we created in the LY Hub was our discussion forum, so that there was a nice, safe, secure way that people could connect with each other, be curious and ask those questions, tap into experts, tap into support services in a really safe way that wasn't public. So, you don't have to feel like you have to kind of curate what you're asking or what you're saying, but really be able to sort of say, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to start from scratch. And I've been doing a lot of talking this year around, all small law, they're all small business owners first. I was having a great discussion with the Victorian Small Business Commissioner a couple of weeks ago, Linda McAlary-Smith, and she was saying, it's so important that we support small law because they are the small business owners that are supporting the other small business owners who particularly are going through some, big, huge problems at the moment. And, they're all part of that ecosystem. So, being able to talk to others and ask those questions and say, how did you start off? There's legal tech and there's also, just tech that you can use. Like you mentioned, Bianca, you don't have to go out and buy the full suite, the shiny new thing, but I think there is a mindset that you need to really understand. And we kind of developed a little kind of template sheet that we kind of give out to our members within our community, which is all about sort of some questions that you can ask yourself before you start making your technology decisions and purchases. And it really kind of goes around, we'll really think about the purpose and the why for the technology. So if you start there and then work your way down about, who's going to take control of it, who's going to lead it if you've got, team members, how have you communicated it, what is the advantage to both the firm, but also to your clients, because we know that's where true legal innovation comes into play when it's a benefit to both. And then it's going, okay, so what's going to work? And then not to forget that always look at that integration. So yes, it's important to get the technology solution that's good for you right now, but maybe think about 12 months or 2 years down the track, or what else you might want in terms of a capability, and make sure that integration, is at least there or, can happen. I think it's a good point as well.
I think just touching on that as well, as a lawyer, I can say this, we are notorious for thinking we can do everything on our own, and it's impossible. We can't.
Girl, like sitting underneath that place there.
Lady, like all that kind of stuff. But we can't. And I think in family law specifically, it's better to work with your colleagues and be able to talk to them about change, so then they can take it on. They know what problems you face, so then they can address their own problems. And so I think you've touched on a really good point of collaboration there, Karen, and I think you did as well, Bianca. As Alter is out there as a association with that contains a lot of that collaboration. Is there any other, I know we're going off script here, but for the people listening, are there any other places that lawyers, smaller firms can go?
Yeah, I'll just clarify as well for those who might not be familiar with Alter, just what we do so that you can understand, and then I can sort of mention some other ones. But Alter is first and foremost, so we're Australian Legal Technology Association. We are all about representing, advocating and supporting Australian legal tech vendors. So when you sort of subscribe or you become a member within our community, you're going to get access to that great Aussie legal tech. And I'll let you in on a secret, which is not a secret. But, you know, we have the most incredible Aussie legal tech that's coming out of this country. I mean, we are, you know, not only great on a local perspective, but globally, Australia is known for its legal tech. And, you know, we've got so many great success stories of homegrown Aussie legal tech companies that are absolutely smashing it overseas in America and Europe and all around the world. So really, really exciting. So being able to actually have that direct access into those legal tech. And we do a wonderful thing every quarter called the Hour of Power, where you can actually go on and just watch 4-minute demos of 8 or 9 different of our Aussie legal tech members. And the great thing is you start, the thing I think a lot of lawyers, and maybe it's because of our exposure with technology, hasn't been great overall. I think we're a bit sort of slower behind the other professional services, is that we tend to sort of feel quite overwhelmed with technology, or we still seem to think it's sort of magic in one aspect, or I think we're afraid to ask questions. Because we don't want to look silly, or we don't want to kind of, so being able to kind of have that tangible, I'm seeing what the technology does, I'm seeing how it runs, I'm getting these snapshots. If you can develop your, I guess, your technical framework, your language framework to be able to then engage is really important. As a side to Alter, we've also got Walter, and I really encourage any of you out there, if you haven't sort of heard about Walter, or you know you'd like to go on board. So Walter is the Women of Australian Legal Tech. So we are part of Alter overall. We sit under the umbrella, but you will actually get to see the incredible female legal tech founders that we have. And my God, amazing businesses and legal tech companies. And the best thing that we did last year was we created an initiative called the Walter e-playbook. You can actually download it for free. It's on the Walter. So if you go into alter.law, you'll see on the menu heading, you've got Walter. If you click that down, you'll see our playbook there and you can download it. Now, it was written by the women of legal tech for the next generation of women starting legal technology companies. However, this playbook has gone viral globally, and it's actually, the feedback we're getting is from lawyers saying it's just as applicable for starting a law firm, or it's just as applicable for implementing a new technology within my firm or a new project initiative. So go there, you've got all the information, and it works through right from, you know, should I be a founder? Should I start a legal tech company? Should I start a law firm? Right through to how do I make my service delivery global? It's incredible. So absolutely go there. Some other organisations, obviously Centre for Legal Innovation, Terry Mottershed, anything with Terry in, just incredible. So a little bit of the difference, I guess, is that, you know, Alter's very specific with legal tech vendors. Terry does do tech as well, but it's got that real sort of innovation flavour, and the people in her community and the sessions and the events that Terry does is just incredible. And law societies also do some incredible things as well. I know Alter's doing a tech tool series with the New South Wales Law Society that people can tap in as part of their membership to the New South Wales Law Society. The Law Institute of Victoria have a legal technology kind of chapter, a subcommittee that you can go into, and they're constantly hosting events as well. So I think there's lots out there, but just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to have demos, and don't be afraid to ask questions. There is no such thing as a silly question in legal technology.
I agree. And I mean, everything that Karen said clearly is also the amount of times that you hear people, predominantly women, say, I'm not good with tech. I'm like, why not? Like, I'm not a developer. Yes, I've spent a lot of my career in tech, but, you know, I think we almost kind of start with that sort of negative mindset going, oh, I'm not good at this, therefore, and you talk yourself out of it going, oh, I'm not very good at this. I don't know. And as Karen was sort of referring to, there are so many people out there willing to help and help you demystify what it is that you need, not just about what someone thinks you should have. And that's where I think it doesn't have to be scary. It's not hard, because I think a lot of the enablement that's wrapped around any tech solution, whether it's something that you can access from a browser or download as a mobile app, or you've got an amazing team behind you supporting you every step of the way. These are our Smokeball values in the background, and one of them is delivering legendary service. And that's part of knowing that you've got that safety net. So whatever your solution is that you choose, one, I'm like, don't be scared, because it's not that scary. And the other part, I kind of go, what's the worst that could happen? Really? Like, it's not going to automatically send out thousands of emails to your client base. And, that's the thing. I'm like, what is there to be scared of? But also look to the support that's available to you, whether it's, different associations, law societies, groups. There's so many people out there who want to see this segment and the industry succeed. But also look at those vendors and go, what help do you have for me when I do need to pick up the phone and ring and say, hey, I'm not sure, or I need some help understanding this, or how do I automate that precedent, or can I set up that workflow, or what is it that I need to do, and how do I show this version of the bill, whatever it ends up being. Knowing that you've got an extra support network around you, I think, is critical in any of that sort of decision making, because you don't have to do it alone. That's the real takeaway. You don't have to do it alone. And me coming into the legal industry relatively new, like I'm not a lawyer, I've been really blown away by just how supportive it really is. And it may not feel that way outside looking in, but when you really get in there, the amount of happy, smiley faces out there that genuinely want to help people, there's no hostility, there's no competitiveness in the sense going, I'm not going to refer that work to you, I'm not going to do that. It's really quite inspiring in the sense that people genuinely want to see people succeed. And I think that's again comes back to that feel good factor that we're all ultimately looking for every day.
And a little hack, when you're going to a legal tech company and you're looking at their product, don't be afraid to say, can you give me a couple of names of some of your customers that I could speak to that are a similar size to me, or perhaps, having the same legal expertise as me, and I'd love to have a chat with them about your technology. That is gold. And good legal technology companies like Smokeball and Settify will say, sure thing, here you go, here's, a list of 4 or 5, knock yourself out and have a chat and make sure that it is right for you. Because I think the problem is that, we've probably seen a wave of lots of small law firm owners adopting lots of tech and probably not doing the planning or the preparation or the research beforehand. So they've been burnt. And I often get a lot of them say to me, oh, it's technology, it's so hard, it's so difficult, it takes so long, it's not doing what I want it to do. But, I think the good thing is that there's lots of different things you can do to prepare and research. And if you do that right, you're going to have a successful technology implementation, which is what we all want.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've touched on everything in our script. And now, are there any questions at all coming in, or let me just see.
And what I did just want to emphasize while we were looking for questions, Amanda, I touched on it before about this integration with different products. And I think it's something that's probably my other, my second top tip for technology implementation is really about sort of saying, asking the legal tech vendor, well, what else does it integrate with? What else can I pop in there? And I think a perfect example is what Settify and Smokeball are doing, is that integration. So you don't want to select a technology that's in a silo and doesn't talk to any other technology, or that you're having to go in and out of, because that will get tired very, very quickly. And therefore then the intention, which, for most would be to save time and become more efficient to give that benefit to the client, is lost. So, I think that's really important. And I think that's something very clever that Settify and Smokeball have done as well, as those integrations. So make sure that you're asking the company, what does your product integrate with? And do I have those? And is that compatible? Would be my other top tip.
Yeah, I agree. I think because the opportunity for, double handling of data and time, time, particularly in law, time is money. So where you can actually, as you said, you don't need to double handle that information, whether, as you said, it's, sort of the lead intake through something like Settify, or whether it's, family property applications, whether it's integration with Zoom and different sort of channels, or searching. There are so many different ways that I think that you've got technology partners out there collaborating together to go, how do we actually make this easier so that, if you are doing a verification of identity, or, whatever the case may be, that information is then captured and stored in, the software solution, like in our case, in, your practice management solution. So you don't need to do that every single time. And again, they're all designed to save you time. But I think it's one of those things, as you're saying, Karen, there's no need to sort of become overwhelmed with choice. It's just knowing where to navigate and where to ask those questions and who to ask those questions to. But ultimately, that's what we're here to do, to help you save time, be more efficient in what you do. And ultimately, doing all these things is what's going to help you deliver a better service at the end of the day, which is what most firms I speak to, that's what they're all about. So whatever we can do is what we're here to help with.
And I think most people in the technology space just want to help. We just want to help. That's all we want to do. We're not trying to sell and build our revenue or whatnot. We just want you to see the value in what you're getting. And that's why asking those questions, identifying what problems you have and finding the right solution just becomes so important. So I see there's no, oh, sorry, Karen.
I was just going to jump in and say the really interesting thing, Amanda, as well, is that a lot of the legal technology companies are founded by lawyers. So there's at least one lawyer as the co-founder. And so it's really interesting to that point, just to sort of, share, is that it's often these legal tech solutions are created just like Hunter, who kind of saw a gap or saw that there was an issue and when we could create the technology. So then they haven't come at it from a tech perspective alone. They've actually come at it from a legal problem. And so I think, again, it's, legal tech. I mean, I get the question when I speak on sort of broader tech panels and broader tech conferences where they'll say, isn't legal tech just technology for lawyers? Like, I don't really understand why you think you're so special or whatever. And I have to kind of say, well, no, but legal tech has been created by lawyers for lawyers. And that's what makes it so unique, because it's unique. It's a technical solution that is unique to the legal process and the way that we deliver our legal services and our business of doing law. And so, yeah, I think it's really, it's just further to your point. Legal tech has often got that lawyer founder there and they understand your problem and they do it.
That's actually so true. And I'm just, yeah, so right. That's the same with Settify. Max Patterson and Athol were the co-founders, and Max had started Settify because he was just sitting in a family law meeting thinking, why am I scribing and filling out all this information when I could have this beforehand and I could just have a nice conversation with my client. So it's true. So that's a good little thing to mention. Karen has all these insights, doesn't she, as well as Bianca. Look, there's no questions. Did anyone have any questions they want to put on the chat before we close the webinar at all?
And look, just while people might be doing there, because we do love a chat and we do love to, we can fill some
We can
space
always
if
fill
anyone's
time,
got we can fill time. Community and tribe, finding a like-minded tribe is really, really important as well. So we've talked about, asking those questions from your legal tech and some of the mindsets and all that sort of stuff as well. But also, once you find your tribe, I think that's really important because it gives you the confidence that the path that you're going down, the decisions that you're making, and even broader than just your technology. I think that, I see so many lawyers that come in and they've been in that traditional, pricing model structure. They come and they start listening to how other firms are doing, value-based pricing or fixed fee or agreed upfront pricing or subscription models, this really kind of, I don't like calling it alternative because I think that, this will become the mainstream, particularly in small law. It will become the way that you do, you price your legal services. And it's incredible just to see how, understanding those stories and making those connections, the confidence, and they feel brave to be able to then really experiment, which I know is a scary word for lots of lawyers because we don't like to experiment because we like to be 100% perfect all the time and risk-free. But look, when you're going into innovation and technology and different pricing models, you do have to experiment and you do have to find the right kind of delivery and the right technology and the right innovation for you and the clients that you're servicing. So getting that beautiful tribe around you. I think the one thing that I feel, since being, with Legally Yours and the community that we have, they're so collaborative. They're so generous with their knowledge. They want to see everyone succeed in this way. And they love being able to share their experience and what's worked and not worked with them. And it's really great. And, we're starting to now talk to some New Zealand lawyers who are looking at Australia and saying, oh my God, I want to know all about this. And I want to know how you're doing, because they're probably a couple of years even behind, where we are. And so it's lovely being able to connect them through the community and saying, have a chat, ask the questions, create a space, because I think it's important that you have those safe spaces. You can ask those questions and, really be able to help you on your innovation and technology journey.
Yeah, I agree. And like really, and I know, Karen, one of the last times we saw each other in person was at our Smoke Ball Spark conference, and Amanda, you and I as well. And I think, and that's why we created an event like Spark that was purely designed to bring small law firms together. And just going back to that community spirit, that is exactly why we created that event, because we realized there was a gap in the market to have a conference or an event tailored specifically to law firms, but not for us to sort of pitch software. It was literally a day centered around small law firms, helping them understand, or giving them options and the tools, and giving them an opportunity to be connected with these amazing different speakers to help them get the tools and get the exposure and the experience on what they could do to continue to run their best business. And so whether that was on growth mindset and adopting different, growth sort of coaching tools and leadership tools, or it was around, revenue performance or client experience, there were so many different things. And I think, and it just speaks to when I saw, hundreds and hundreds of people together, and even at the post-event function, there was just this happiness and willingness just to connect, where it was like, and that's really rare, because, being in different industries, you don't always see that happen, where, people are coming from Dubbo, or people are coming up from Adelaide, and they were like, you know what, like, it's really hard for me to take time out of my business, but they got so much out of it. And it wasn't just about the content. Clearly, I'm a little bit, biased about the content that myself and the team, we all put together, and the speakers and all this amazing stuff that was there. But it was actually, I think, the opportunity to connect with different people in breakout sessions, or go and stop by the, the different exhibitions that are stands to learn more about the different solutions. But I think there's real communities out there that exist virtually, physically, who want to sort of help, whether it's even just being able to refer each other work from that sense, going, hey, this actually isn't my area of expertise, rather me being a generalist now. You need an expert in this space. I've got an amazing person. I'm going to connect you with that person. That's what I feel is really starting to shift. And I think we're seeing that manifest, and actually demonstrable examples of that, I think, in small law every day. And that's what's going to continue to keep keep this sort of thriving, ecosystem continuing to get better and better every day.
And I promise I'm not on Smokeball's payroll, but I was obviously at that Spark conference. That was one of the best conferences, small law conference. It was the energy and what you actually created in there was absolutely fantastic. It was such a good environment, such a good, space, and everything about it was just on point. You've got one you're already taking bookings for next year.
We are. It's not even this isn't even a set. I just said not scripted. But luckily this week I've had it locked in. It is on.
Promise it's not scripted.
Not scripted. I might get kicked. Someone might get there might be an admission happening very soon. Bianca gets pulled out. No, but I can confidently say we are back on for 2024. It'll be February. We're really excited. We've got an amazing venue lined up, which I won't do the spoilers, because the team will take me off, and you'll never see me do a webinar like this. There'll be a gag order placed on me. But honestly, and Karen and Amanda, that is exactly why we're doing it again, because the feedback that we got was just overwhelmingly positive, to say it wasn't about Smokeball, it was about the community and about our clients. And that was why we pushed so hard to make it the event and make it the experience that ultimately it was, and make it a fun day. Learning doesn't have to be boring. Learning can be fun. And when you can learn and take some great professional development opportunities back, take the time out of the busyness of a day-to-day running a business, because it is hard, and take that time out for yourself, and have these amazing different speakers that are there purely for you and to help you run your best firm. That was really what it was all about. And to sort of spark an idea or spark a connection, and just ultimately help small businesses thrive. That's really what Spark really represented. So very, very proud to know that we're going to do it again. Hopefully it'll be bigger and better next year. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we are certainly very excited to attend next year. I'm kind of curious as to what the venue is now.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But look, I wanted to thank you ladies so much for joining us. All the discussions have been really insightful, and I hope the audience has gathered a lot of information from this too. And if you do want to reach out to any of us, feel free to do so, and start collaborating and start finding your tribe. Maybe that's what we should call the dating app. Find your tribe.
Find your tribe. I like it. I think you're onto something. Quick trademark it, Amanda.
Yeah, let's get on it. We can do it. And just a shout out, if anyone would like that template, access to that template, DM me on LinkedIn. You can email me, karen.finch@legallyyours.com.au. I'll send it to you. You can have a look. It might just sort of spark some preparation and mindset questions so that you're making sure you're going to get a successful implementation as possible. So, absolutely just reach out to me. Love to share it around.
They've done the heavy lifting for you all out there. That's the best part of that. I remember when you launched it, Karen, it's incredible. So I think you use those resources. They're there for you. And as you said, we're all very accessible and happy to have a chat, have a coffee, lunch, virtual chat, whatever you need. I think that everyone's very warm and very friendly and open. And as I said, we've name dropped a few amazing people already out there in that community as well. So I know they're also equally happy and able and available to help as well if they can.
Well, thank you so much, Bianca and Karen, and thank you for everyone joining us today. I hope you have a lovely afternoon. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else you want to say at all before we close?
Oh, just thanks for having us. This has been fantastic. Love you both so much.
Finding an hour for the three of us to get together and have a chat. That's not hard.
I know. Thanks
every minute of it.
Loved it. Thank you so much, Amanda and Settify, for having us. Really appreciate being here.
Thank you both so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You too. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.